tonight. This presentation is being offered to you through a local Calgary group called Wellness Through Mindfulness, or WTM for short. We created this group in 2015, and we would meet twice a month with the intention to offer Calgarians free programs on mindfulness and related topics given by a variety of talented practitioners from here in the city. To learn more about us and some of our offerings, we have a website. It's called thebreathproject.org, and that also supports our WTM offerings as well. So on thebreathproject.org, you'll see animated videos and presentations from many speakers on mindfulness. But for details specifically on WTM, you'll find a link from that website where you can view summaries of our previous talks. You can enjoy guided meditations as well as recordings of previous Zoom presentations that we've done here with the Calgary Public Library. But on behalf of WTM, I would like to thank the Calgary Public Library for continuing to provide us with this online opportunity so that we can bring our programs to the public. In particular, Patrick Mealy for his initial invitation and support, as well as Maya Milivek and Katie Radke tonight for their great technical support, because otherwise these evenings wouldn't be happening. So a reminder, we actually offer these presentations twice a month on an ongoing basis on the first and third Thursday of every month. They're from 7 to 7:30, and you'll need to register through the Calgary Public Library website. You can find all of our offerings by just searching the word mindfulness, and you'll see offerings right into March and April. So 2 programs to let you know that are coming up. On Thursday, February 18th, you can join us for meditation. What is it and how to do it? And a brief description on that is our suffering doesn't come from the problem, but our relationship with it. Meditation provides an effective coping strategy to meet life's challenges in a more skillful way. Learn how to meditate to start to gain some control over your life. And that will be led by Dr. Phil Bluestein. And then on Thursday, March 4th, we're offering attention and awareness, inseparable twins at the heart of the mindfulness practice. So this will be an evening where you'll enjoy a talk as well as a guided meditation, and we'll explore how those 2 twins can lead you on a path to improve your being while you do your doing. And so that will be led by Dr. Alan Donsky. But tonight we have Dr. Leslie Elstad, and she will take us through deepening your mindfulness meditation practice, opening, befriending, and letting go. And in this session, you will be introduced to skills that allow your practice to deepen, to bring more freedom from stress, greater peace, and happiness in living. Leslie Elstad is a family physician who has a private practice here in Calgary for the past 35 years. She loves being a grandmother and is replenished by being active outdoors. She began her meditation practice in 1998 and has studied in the Tibetan, insight, and secular meditation traditions. She's inspired by the benefits of long-term meditation practice. Combining her understanding of traditional and meditation training, neurobiology, and psychology, she enjoys sharing the practice with those who are interested. She teaches and supports the development of practice opportunities through Yoga MCC and, of course, WTM. So Leslie is going to take us through a talk and a meditation, which will take us probably for about the next 50 minutes. And then, as Katie mentioned, around 8 o'clock, we will be taking your questions. So you can submit those through the chat, or of course, raise your hand if you would like to come online in the video format. So just a reminder that the session is being recorded, and it will be a big part of our evening, and the success of the evening is the conversation and the discussion and the questions that you bring. So we look forward to hearing from you. But I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Leslie Elstad. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Christine. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. Christine and I have known each other through Yoga MCC in the past, and then reconnected through WTM, and it's been wonderful to reconnect with her. And to be here with you this evening is really a gift through primarily the efforts of Dr. Phil Bluestein, who I've known throughout my medical career through sending patients. He was a gastroenterologist for many years here in Calgary. And I always marveled at his instructions that he left for patients, very clear and helpful for family doctors to have those available. And I've noticed he has the same skills with teaching meditation. And this evening, I want to start by helping us gather, because probably most of us have just kind of finished dinner after some kind of a day, whether it's a busy or a quiet one. And it's helpful at the beginning of a meditation talk to gather ourselves. So we're going to start with a 3-minute meditation. So just taking time to get ourselves settled onto our seats, whatever they may be. And just checking in that we're here. We'll start with the bell. So beginning by checking out the space that you're in. Letting it settle into your nervous system that this space is safe, that there's enough oxygen for you to breathe. There may be something in your space that feels nourishing to look at. Spending a moment having a look at it. And then allowing attention to gradually come closer into the body, gathering it. And if it's helpful, you can close your eyes. Feel attention collecting in the body. Really landing here now in our seats. Checking in with our posture. The key points are an upright spine in its natural curves. Chin slightly tucked. Hands resting wherever feels supportive, on the thighs or in the lap. Shoulders relaxed and open. And feeling the breath and allowing the breath to reach the belly. And then focusing on the breath in and out. And then feeling the whole body breathing. And then sensing some kind of valuing of the time we're going to spend here together. That this is a worthy time to be spending, a worthy effort to be making. And then one more breath, and we can open our eyes. And here we are together. And what are we here for? I would guess that many of us are here because we would like to have more peace. We'd like to find some peace of mind. And we can find it often within a breath for a moment. Why does this peace of mind seem to come and go? And why do we seek it? The reason that it comes and goes is because of the nervous system that we have inherited through being human. The nervous system that we have is designed to keep us alive for survival. And because there is a need to be attentive to threat and to look for opportunities and to screen out things that don't matter, we tend to want more of what seems appealing, what could provide opportunities. So we move toward that, and we even cling to that. And we push away from things that appear to be threatening or not opportune. And there's a lot of things we need to ignore because there's too much information coming in. And due to this design of our nervous system creates both alarm and screens out the things that aren't important. And also, we do have times where we feel at peace. So when do we feel at peace? We feel at peace when we sense that we're safe, that we belong to the group that we're with, and that the various needs we have are getting met. These might be needs for shelter, clothing, medicine, companionship, growth, personal growth, self-mastery, and even spiritual needs. We feel at peace when those needs are being met. And what we find is that they're not always being met. And so our nervous system is continually struggling to find the peace, the very peace that we seek. And what we what has been found through many, many people practicing various spiritual traditions, but in particular, I'm talking about this one that includes meditation, is that there is a peace that can be found and maintained even when conditions are changing and there are things in our environment that are unwanted or that are particularly appealing. So there is a peace that can be found through practice of meditation that is no longer dependent on changing conditions. And so this is what we're going to explore today. So how do we find this peace? We find it through being able to see clearly what we're experiencing. So I'm using the word opening. We're opening to what's actually happening. And then when we open to what's actually happening, we bring in the energy of friendship to it, of friendliness. We not only see it, but we meet it with caring, goodwill, warmth, kindness. So we see clearly with a kindness and a warmth. And then we are able to also add the energy of releasing or letting go. We let go of any clinging, which could be the clinging of wanting or the clinging of not wanting or the delusion of ignoring. So we're going to practice these three skills, basically, through three different parts of our experience. We're going to practice them through the trainings in body, so body, mainly body sensations, through trainings in the breath, and through trainings in the mind. And I am going to read a poem to start with to bring us into the experience of opening. So opening to our experience initially through listening to this poetry. This is by Mary Oliver. So it's called The Lamps. 8 o'clock, no later, you light the lamps. The big one by the large window, the small one on your desk. They are not to see by. It is still twilight out over the sand. The scrub oaks and cranberries, even the small birds have not settled. For sleep yet out of the reach of prowling foxes. No, you light the lamps because you are alone in your small house. And the wicks sputtering gold are like two visitors with good stories. They will tell slowly in soft voices while the air outside turns quietly a grainy and luminous blue. You wish it would never change. But of course, the darkness keeps its appointment each evening. An inscrutable presence. It has the final word outside every door. So that poem evokes some sensory experiences, some visions, some visual experiences, some felt experiences. And now we're going to do the same thing through experiencing what's happening now in our own bodies. So again, we're going to close our eyes if that's best for you. And then come into our body. And the first skill is to open to our experience. So we'll start at the top of the body and open to the experience of the darkness under our eyelids. And now open to the nose, feeling whatever you feel at your nose, whatever you smell, open to it. And then opening to the sensations in the mouth, the moisture, any taste that's in the mouth. The sensations in the lips. And then feeling in to the throat, in the neck, allowing the throat to open. And into the heart, middle of the chest. And then the belly. And then right down, allowing the anus to open. And now all of your skin to open over the whole body. And then feeling the body as a whole. And then bringing in the energy of friendliness. Just feeling a natural warmth, goodwill toward your experience. Welcoming experience as it is. And then allowing attention to Move to anything that seems to be calling for you to follow it. It may be a sensation in the body or an emotion, whatever it is. Opening to it. With a friendly attitude. And then the third element is the element of releasing or letting go. So including in this opening and seeing with a friendly attitude is the skill of releasing and letting experience both arise and pass away, just as it is. It's kind of a relaxing. Knowing this experience is passing. And it can be helpful to use the experience of sitting on the earth, as we are doing, to give support to the movement towards releasing or letting go. So allowing the support of the earth to become more noticeable and having the sense of releasing into the earth whatever experiences arise. So again, opening your eyes and allowing your body to move a little if it feels it needs it. So now we're going to go on to using these skills with the breath. And the breath is often affected by emotion. We may notice if we're feeling excited, we start to breathe more quickly. If we're feeling angry, we may hold our breath. And so I wanted to read a poem by Mary Oliver that's a very short one, but it is about emotion, which it's not so direct connection here with the topic, but it's helpful. So it's called We Shake with Joy. We shake with joy, we shake with grief. What a time they have, these two housed as they are in the same body. So this speaks to the range of emotion. There's a lot more than joy and grief. But it speaks to what we need to have, what's helpful to have the capacity to experience without pushing it away, without clinging to it. And the breath can be very helpful. It's a very powerful tool for working with our experience, including emotion. And so now we're going to do a meditation on the breath using the 3 opening and befriending and letting go. So try this with your eyes open. We'll try this together. Taking a breath in is an opening. And then at the top of the breath, having a sense of friendliness. And then feeling the letting go on the out breath. And then at the end of the letting go, is there some temporary peace? So I'm going to suggest that we each experiment with these 3 movements, these 3 efforts, skills, as we come into our bodies breathing, opening on the in-breath, befriending at the top of the in-breath, and releasing or letting go on the out-breath. So continuing to do that on your own for the next few minutes. And now you may want to choose one of these 3 focuses and just let the breathing be natural. Opening, befriending, letting go. See which one fits for you today as being a tilt of the mind that will be supportive of peace. And if you do notice some peace arising in the mind, allow your mind to rest in it for as long as it can. Don't shy away from it. Just rest in peace. And if you get distracted, then begin again, opening on the in-breath, friendliness, letting go on the out-breath. Okay, so you can continue to listen with your eyes closed and continue to meditate, or if you prefer, you can open your eyes. And I'm going to read another poem. So this is again by Mary Oliver. And it's to support our next endeavor, which will be to have mind as the object of our attention. So this poem is entitled, I Worried. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it. And I am, well, hopeless. Is my eyesight fading, or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing and gave it up, and took my old body and went out into the morning and sang. So we all know the workings of our own minds and how often our minds are caught up in a lot of thinking that is not very helpful to us. And meditation provides a technique, a way to help to learn to create space for a mind that will settle more easily and therefore give us the peace we need to use our thinking more in a way that's more helpful to us and to others. So in order to learn how to work with the thinking mind, we can use the same method of opening to what's happening in the mind. It's not only thinking, it's emotions. And in some ways, body sensations, they're all interpreted and experienced in the mind. So opening to what's there, befriending it, and releasing or letting go. So we'll do the same practice, but with our whole mind as the object. So again, closing eyes and coming into our bodies. Feeling the body breathing. And allowing the mind to fall open. Body breathing in space. And allowing experience, opening to whatever's there. Including the quality of friendliness. And not clinging. It's allowing experience to come as it comes, be here as long as it will, and release when it's ready to go. Letting go of any tension in the body that's ready to release. Any tension in the breath. Any tension in the mind. And if there's a particularly strong experience, you can experiment what is helpful for being able to stay present with the experience. Does it need you to open more, come closer? Does it need warmth and kindness? Is it calling for a sense of freedom with a letting go? Just taking some time to see what's helpful. And anytime you get distracted, it can be helpful to come back to an anchor, such as the breathing or the body sitting. Using the energy of beginning, of starting, to reinforce your attention. And as we come to the end of the meditation, gathering attention in your heart and feeling into the value of what you've done this evening, the importance of learning about meditation, of practicing it, that you are seeking something of value to yourself, and that you've made an effort. And also that you've made this effort with a group of people who are interested in the same thing, and imagining each person in their own space, feeling connected to them, or connected to each other, or seeking. We care. We have bodies, we breathe. We have minds. We think and feel much like one another. And then if you wish, you can put your hands together. It's just a way to harmonize the body. And then just bowing your head to yourself and to your companions, our companions this evening. And feeling a sense of gratitude for the practice. And now we're happy to take questions if there are any questions. And I think Christine is going to manage that as far as.
Thank you, Leslie. Beautiful practice, so beautiful. I have to say that last meditation, I'm pretty sure I heard my inner child loud and clear. Anybody else? What sweet little child. I was like, aw.
That was interesting.
I was like, very powerful practice that my inner child is like loud and clear. Well done, Leslie. Oh, oh, it was so great. I loved how you framed the whole talk tonight into the opening, the befriending, and the letting go, and then using the objects for us to focus on that, like the body and the breath and the mind. So powerful to be able to weave that into all aspects of the practice. Just
Thank you.
So great, Leslie. Really good. One question it looks like that popped up here was, is that through the library program? So yes, it would be. And we have people thanking you. And I know one question for me that comes up sometimes when I'm practicing is when we think about opening at the beginning of the practice, when something feels really big and intense and we want to move through that and we're called to open. How do you suggest we manage it when it feels like it's a really big, powerful emotion? Where would you suggest we go to the objects? Or do we use our own judgment? What would you suggest?
If it feels more powerful, then there's space or capacity to stay present with it. If it feels like it's just too much, then I might focus on the breath. It would be a good object. Often strong experiences are also creating strong body sensations or stimulating. So the body may not be the best object. And then I also find personally that the loving kindness practice can be very helpful for increasing capacity to tolerate difficult experiences. So maybe focusing on receiving love, on compassion practice. If you can locate the experience in the body and it's in a particular part of the body and it feels overwhelming, then it may be more useful to feel the opposite side. So if it's in the left side of the belly, you might want to feel the right side of the belly until you've established a sense of ground and some calm. You can also have it. There are practices in meditation for cultivation of qualities that help us to process difficulties. So it's good to have them bookmarked in your mind. So there's practices for developing calm, for example. So if you feel like, oh, I'm feeling really agitated, then you might go, oh, I have that practice where I visualize a peaceful, a very still body of water. And you might even have some pictures on your phone that, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to get this picture out and I'm just going to gaze at it. I'm going to do pond gazing until my mind calms down. So those are some ideas about that. And I'm looking at the camera, even though you're on the computer, I'm trying to learn how to do this.
No, it's great. One question that came up, which I think is, sorry, I'm just trying to find it here. One moment. Okay, so one question was, when we move to the mind focus, how is it best to do that, given that it is our mind focusing on our mind? So what would you suggest, Leslie?
Well, the thing that works for me is to visualize that the mind is space. So perhaps it's because that's the way I was trained, was to begin with the body, then the breathing, and letting the body and the breath settle helps the mind to settle. And then imagining like the lid coming off your head, and maybe imagining stretching the mind in all directions, making it wide and open and spacious, and then looking at it. Basically, mind is looking at mind. Awareness is aware of awareness. And then within this space, you can start to, things will start to settle like snowflakes falling on a pond. You can see the space of mind in which all of experiences arising. And then so when I began meditating, and I think it's true for many people, the most prominent experience was a lot of thinking. And so if you experience that, just know that's normal. And just keep going, just keep training your awareness, and the awareness gradually settles the mind. So the thoughts initially might be like Niagara Falls, and then they become like Bow Falls, and then they're like a river bubbling, and eventually a little trickle. Usually you don't get rid of the little trickle except for small periods of time. Like I still have thoughts arising in the mind, but they're much quieter and settled. So that's some ideas I had about that.
Yeah, that's great, Leslie. And I think, when we become aware of the mind and the thoughts are coming, like you're saying, what would you suggest when the energy of resistance comes up around that? Like, you've given us some tools, but what else would you say? Is that where we want to move to the letting go when we feel that resistance?
Resistance is tricky because if you don't acknowledge it, you're almost adding aversion to it. Mm-hmm. So if there is a resistance, it might be first best to give some friendliness to the resistance. Just say, oh, I see you there, resistance. You don't want, there's some pushing away. And so if you go to letting go too quickly, then resistance will inflame itself because it really wants you to see it.
Right.
Things won't let go until they get seen.
Right.
And perhaps we've all had that experience in conversations where they're not going very well, and we realize, well, we've stopped acknowledging what each other is saying, and instead we're trying to get heard. And so our own mind and body is the same. If you push it away or ignore it, it will find a way to be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. There was a comment here. Someone really appreciated the poetry, the Mary Oliver poetry. So were you reading that from a specific book of hers or multiple places? Or?
Yes, she has, I will show you on the camera, this book, Devotions. I don't know if you can see it from that distance, but it's probably too far away.
I'm sure we can find that at the library, right, Katie? Great.
I'm pulling up the link right now and I'll put it in the chat.
Love it. That's so good. So if anyone else wants to come into the chat with any questions or raise your hand to ask Leslie directly. One question, is music a recommended accompaniment to meditation, or sounds?
Sound is used a lot in different meditation traditions. Various forms of chanting are used. And it plays a big role in many traditions. My own experience is when I first started meditating, that chanting was a very important way to settle my mind. And I've returned to listening to music just as a meditation in itself. Meditation or music is the most meditative art form because you have to follow it moment to moment to moment. And it keeps your attention. So yes, I recommend music for those who are that way inclined as helpful, and particularly chanting as a method.
Someone is asking, is it best if you're in a closed, quiet room for your meditation?
Yes, it's easier, less distraction. So especially when we're beginning, but always helpful, basically, to no matter how many years you've meditated, to have some quiet in the environment.
Let's see. One thing for me that I'll share when it comes to sounds, even like I've done practices where that's all I've focused on, and I'm sure you have too, Leslie, is just the sounds around me. And I just made that my practice, that I just opened up to hearing. And particularly when I did it at a week-long silent retreat, when I came home, I felt like my hearing was exponential. Like I felt like I could hear the world so much clearer than ever before. Like it can be, just listening for sounds can be a very powerful practice.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. And also listening to sound as your object can be very helpful if you're overwhelmed by your emotions, because it's generally more neutral emotionally than sound. Of course, deep rumbling, threatening sounds are not helpful, but generally listening to sound can help settle.
It's true, because it's the nature of allowing the sound to arrive. Like there's no control for us. Like we can't strive to change it or want it to be there. So there's a real beautiful arriving in just accepting the sounds for what it is. Yeah. Someone asked, thinking again of our wonderful library system, are there books on meditation that are especially good?
I do not know what the library has for meditation books. It's a very good question, but perhaps it's something we could look at between the two of us, the library and WTM, and post a list of what's available that we recommend. That's a good question.
Yeah, that would be great. I know last time when I was speaking last month, I came up with a few of my favorite books, and actually I was just holding them up and several of them were at the library. So I think there's quite a good selection. If you maybe even want to suggest a couple of your favorites, Leslie, and maybe Katie could even just have a quick peek and see if they're available.
Okay, the Loving Kindness, the Art of Happiness, I believe it's called, by Sharon Salzberg, is an excellent book. It's a sort of a standard in North American meditation. I've been through so many phases with my books that I like. When I first started meditating, I liked Lama Surya Das's books. I haven't read any of them for a number of years, but I liked them. And Bhante Gunaratna writes very good meditation books. Jack Kornfield, Joseph Goldstein would be some of the authors that are very well known.
Here's one of Jack's, Leslie.
Yeah, The Wise Heart.
Yeah, maybe Tara Brach.
Tara Brach. She's very psychological. So if you're psychologically minded, she's a really good author.
Yeah, that's great. One question that someone had, is it necessary to try to stay immobile or not move when you meditate?
So sitting meditation, the idea is to come to stillness. That doesn't mean you can't move. So sometimes it's very helpful to move a little bit in sitting meditation. So it can bring relief to discomfort that can arise in the body, just to make very small movements in that part of the body. At the same time, I would say that you can do movement as meditation. So mindful movement is a form of meditation. And within the tradition that I've been trained in, walking meditation is a form of meditation that's done as much as sitting meditation.
Mhm.
There are practices to help to make sitting meditation more comfortable, and many yoga teachers are skilled at teaching those practices. I imagine Christine may know something about that, since she's both a meditation and a yoga teacher. And yoga in of itself is a very good practice. Like I'm often, when I'm doing yoga, which I do very regularly, I will be using my meditation skills. So I'll be bringing kindness into the posture, or I'll be adding a little bit of peace, or I'll just be being aware of my whole body as it's in downward dog. And so there are movement practices and meditation work very well in combination. Do you want to say anything about that, since you're a movement body
Well,
teacher?
I would say that when first beginning to meditate, I'm a big supporter of props, like ensuring that we're comfortable. Like I see Leslie sitting on her bolster, and I think that that's a beautiful place to start for a seated meditation, because a lot of us typically have tight hips. So to sit cross-legged on the floor without support can actually be quite uncomfortable. So when I see Leslie seated like that, I think that that's great, because it helps elevate and the knees can drop, and it can bring some relief into the lower back, and it really allows the spine to be nice and long. But I will also say that I'm a big proponent of just sitting in a chair and finding comfort, so that we can really come into the practice and not be distracted by how we're sitting, or if I'm sitting correctly. Like sometimes just taking out those bigger sensations in the body can just lead us to a more forgiving practice when it comes to sensations in the body. So
I have noticed in the years of practicing meditation that very senior meditation teachers start sitting in chairs as their bodies get older.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, there can be limitations in the joints and things like that. But if you need to move in meditation, do it mindfully. Like sometimes my left leg goes numb and I have to unfold it, or it gets very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I just do it mindfully and let it get not numb, and then I fold it back in again, because when it's folded in, the body is more upright and stable. So there's a reason for the cross-legged posture, which is because it brings a lot of stability. And the most stable posture, if you can do it, is the full lotus posture.
Mhm.
But some of us started meditating and doing yoga when we were 40 instead of when we were 10. So that's not going to be possible.
And we all have our own physical challenges, our own structural challenges, and our own natural flexibility. So my feeling on that is yoga really is about shapes, and really our body, we can create our own yoga for our own body, and we can come to the practice in that mindful way. So, because someone here was just asking what is, or what type of yoga lends itself to meditation and complementing a meditation practice. There are so many kinds. And I would say that really, it comes from the teacher, the tone that the teacher will bring to the style of yoga that they teach when it is mindful, maybe when it's a little bit slower, because when we move so quickly, sometimes we can lose our mindfulness when we're flowing too fast from one pose to another. So for me personally, and how I like to teach and what I like to see is just that natural invitation for people to really connect in, to pause between practices. And you can move and you can create all this sensation, and then we pause, and then it's this moment to say, what do I feel now? What does my body have to tell me now? And that can be its very own practice when we think about using the body as an anchor. So, and I know Yoga MCC, which is the yoga studio that I used to manage and where Leslie teaches meditation, their teachers there are wonderful when it comes to the power of mindfulness in the practice. Really great.
And each style of yoga has its own gift that it gives. So even a flow practice can be very meditative if you stay present through the whole thing. And I do my flow practice on Sunday because it feels like it's like very joyful and refreshing for getting ready for the work week. And then, at the end on an evening, you might want to do a restorative practice. And then there's the critical alignment, which they teach at Yoga MCC, which is a wonderful practice for opening up the channels in the spine and releasing emotions and tensions that are in the body. I wouldn't say there's a style of yoga that's not helpful, and I would mix it up, is just how I experience it. That's personal.
I don't see any other questions. So anyone else? We'll just sort of make a last call here for any final questions that we can answer. Someone mentioned, Leslie, if you can't be in a quiet room, would it be better to put music on?
Like to block out the other sounds? Yeah, that might be helpful. Maybe even, having the music with headphones, noise canceling headphones, even better. Might be a possibility. I mean, you can meditate in the middle of a very busy, noisy environment. It's just not as easy. And it probably, the more practice you've had, the easier it would become to go inside and allow the mind to calm, even though it's noisy and distracting.
There was a question here. Do you recommend meditating daily? If so, for how long?
I would recommend to meditate nearly daily, because you don't want to become a perfectionist who beats yourself up if you miss a day, but kind of having the idea that you're going to commit to meditating nearly every day. And many people find it easiest to do it first thing because then they have it done, just like forms of exercise. So getting up, going to the washroom, some people have a cup of coffee first, if that helps wake you up in the morning. I'm a doctor, so I'll tell you, caffeine has an actual effect on chemicals in the brain. It clears out, and I can't remember the name of the chemical, but it's the chemical that makes you feel like you're not awake yet. You're kind of thick-headed. Caffeine clears it out, might help you do your morning meditation. And then sit down, and usually starting with something like 10 minutes, setting an alarm so you're not checking, and then gradually increasing it as long as you like. Many people have enough time to do 20 or 30 minutes in the morning. If you have more time, you can go longer. Some people choose to do it at other times in the day. It's often good to do a little meditation between events. So doing it before you leave, if you're working, to do it before you leave work for 5 minutes at your desk, so you kind of refresh yourself. Or when you get home, you're still sitting in your vehicle or you're sitting on the bus, you do a little meditation to settle the mind before you're then engaging with whoever is your housemate or housemates. It can also be very helpful to do, if you're agitated or something's upsetting you, is to just do, you know, going to bathrooms when you're in a social situation and you may be feeling disturbed or agitated, or you're in an argument with someone. I need to take a break and go do a short 3 to 5 minute meditation can be very helpful.
I think that's great, Leslie. And I mean, particularly looking at the formal practice of it, but also the informal opportunity to practice mindfulness throughout the whole day, that bell of mindfulness, like making that commitment to yourself. Finding those moments where the call to be present in a conversation, or like you said, you know, in the moment outside, you know, we have so many opportunities to awaken to the practice. Someone asked, when would I know, and this is a great question, when would I know when a meditation went well?
Meditation goes well when you keep waking yourself up to the fact that you got distracted. So it's not about not getting distracted. It's about noticing that you're distracted and returning and starting over, especially when you're just beginning meditation. And rewarding yourself by saying, oh, look, I woke up because I noticed I was distracted, even if the distraction lasted 5 minutes. And then, oh, suddenly you realize you were off on a big thought train, and you came back and you started over. And then what tends to happen over time is you start to get rewards for meditation, which is you have feelings of peace and ease, feelings of happiness, feelings of love and calm, and you look forward to meditating. So you don't want to miss it because you know it's going to nourish your body and your mind to do it. And then, you know, those are the kind of things you can say that went well, is I got those feelings. But interestingly, it isn't actually that. Those feelings aren't the point of meditating. They're a byproduct of meditating. And what they allow to happen is, because we build up this capacity for peace, ease, and love, our nervous system gradually releases any held difficulties, any clinging that we've done through our years of living. And the state of peace and ease can then be more and more available no matter what's happening. So people can make an error when they're experienced meditators in thinking that they're seeking the byproducts of meditation, and they can get lost in looking for, in a sense, one of my teachers called it roll your own meditation, like you're looking for a high through meditating. That's not the goal of meditating. He said roll your own dharma. That's a Pali word, so I don't know if I should use that here.
So great, Leslie. I think on that, we'll probably wrap it up for this evening. So thank you for another wonderful evening. And just a reminder, the 3 things: open, friendliness, and letting go. I think I can remember those 3. And Katie, a big thanks